Ini. Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. You have to feed people. Then they'll listen to you. First you feed them and then, okay, I'll pay attention. Now I'm full. Oh, there's Marnie. Okay. My goodness, we're on time. You don't have to do that. It's about 1 o'clock. We can we can wait. People might come late on the Zoom, right? So, I mean, we can wait a little bit because I know people come late a lot, so. Excuse me. Oops. Oh yeah, I have slides and I actually have them on screen share right now. It's on screen share, so.
Berarti saya saja ya. Ya, kalau pas ini ya saya kok Start the meeting. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable our Dean of Faculty of Tarbiyah and Education, Prof.Dr. Sumarni MPD, the Honorable Head of the Study Program from Magister of Islamic Education Management. He is also his secretary, Dr. Nur Saida. She is present in here. The Honorable Head of Bachelor of Islamic Education Management. He is Dr. Zainal Arifin. Also attends in this room. And our great speaker, Prof. Marta, welcome to Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon all. I'm very excited to become a moderator in this discussion. Today we will discuss about sustaining ethics in educational working culture, and we have a great speaker from Lyon College, USA. She is Prof. Marta Beck. Before we start the presentation about this discussion, maybe our Dean, Prof. Sri Sumarni, will give some speech. Prof. Sri Sumarni, can you hear my voice?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, time is yours, Prof.
Okay, thank you this time for me, Nora.
Yes.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Good afternoon, everybody. The Honorable Professor Dr. Marta Beck, PhD from Arkansas, USA. All of the Vice Dean, Head and Secretary Study Program, especially Head and Secretary Study Program Islamic Education Management, Tarbiyah and Teaching Faculty, all of the lecturer, student, and all of the participants of this seminar. First of all, let's say thanks to Allah for giving us mercy and blessing, head and the opportunity to join in this seminar. We should also always send salawat and salam to the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I'm delighted to hold this seminar with excellent speakers, Professor Dr. Martha Beck. Good afternoon, Prof. The second, I would like to thank to the seminar committee, especially to the head and secretary Islamic Education Management, Bapak Dr. Yainal Arifin MSI dan Ibu Kandidat Dr. Nora Janana MPD. Also to the committee team of the international office and lecture student who support this seminar. In a decade, our faculty has focused on implementing international programs such as international guest lectures, international student mobility, research collaboration, international community services, and currently conducting an international seminar. In this seminar, we will discuss sustaining ethics in education working cultures. With aim to the first discuss about leaders' role, and the second promoting ethical conduct, and the third balancing academic freedom and ethics, and the fourth ethical challenging in technology. The seminar will discuss deeply about it and started by Professor Dr. Martha Beck from Arkansas, USA. Thank you, Prof, for sharing and learning of your experience and knowledge. Thank you and enjoy this seminar. May we all take the blessing and benefit. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Prof. Sumarni, for your opening speech. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before we start discussion, I show you the rule of the participant. Maybe for on-site participant, you can silence your phone and sit quietly and listen carefully to the speaker say. And then for the online participant, I suggest you make sure that you have a stable network connection for your today's seminar. Please use your real name for your Zoom account display name. It is suggested to change your Zoom display setting into speaker view to focus on what speaker are talking. All participants are requested to active your camera as form of attendance and enthusiasm for participating this meeting. Please turn off your microphone to not disturb the discussion, and the host has the authority to mute the microphone of all participants. And the last, you may write your question on the chat room, or you can directly ask in the comment section after the presentation from Martha. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will start the discussion. Before I give you opportunity to ask something, I will give the Marthas to present. Prof. Martha, time is yours. Before Martha's presentation, I will introduce herself. Martha, her full name Martha Catherine Beck. She from Lyon College, USA. She has many experience about visiting lecture. Also, she now in Lyon College from 2008 to present. And she was complete her education background in Bryn Mawr College in 1993 years. Maybe in that year I was a child. Okay, Martha, time is yours to present your idea.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes. Okay, good. I was wondering, what's going on, but all right, good. So I appreciate being asked. And the focus of this discussion specifically is on the notion of management. And the idea that Islamic management means you're trying to integrate ancient wisdom with modern social science, right? It's supposed to be integrated. But I want to explain mostly where the concept of management comes from, why it's a modern concept, and it has a philosophy behind it that's wrong. Okay, it's a mistake, and it's part of colonialism to keep teaching this stuff and brainwash you into believing it. But we really need to go forward. We don't want to just go backward to Islam. We don't want to go just modern Western is the best. We want to develop systems thinking, which is integrating ancient, modern, and then today. So it's possible to integrate. It's necessary to integrate. All the sciences, social sciences, humanities are realizing we made a mistake. And so there are many Westerners cutting edge that say, oh, empiricism, positivism, rationalism, that's all wrong. But we keep educating our people in that because the educators got rewarded for it. And so again, the best and the brightest in the developing countries go off and they learn this stuff. Whereas the contemporary people in the West are saying, oh, that's all wrong. And it's just so ironic, and it's still colonialism, and it drives me nuts. But I'll explain that, and then there's other things, like I've given a lot of presentations and I can't say everything in one, so they have a different focus. So the focus of this one is management, okay? All right, so here's my PowerPoint. Again, I appreciate this because I have a lot to say, and each presentation gives a little bit of the picture of the whole. Okay, I hope this is right, the data. Okay, so management programs around the world are still based on the modern Western paradigm, which is materialistic, reductionistic, based on the unlimited exploitation of nature for human well-being and the social engineering of human nature, in the belief that we could make everybody virtuous if we just have enough data. Okay, so this is about science, the old paradigm of science and the new paradigm. Aristotle thought the purpose of life is to understand the universe and to understand our place in the universe and to create a sustainable culture and to create a flourishing society, right? Everybody should flourish. What's wrong with that? Neek. So the modern world said, no, 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 no. The purpose of knowledge is to exploit nature and to create new knowledge, new products, and to progress. But you progress by exploiting nature. You only understand it in order to dominate it. So the purpose of knowledge is domination. All right. This is John Locke. This is the great defender of human rights. You have to understand this. The original view of human rights is not what you want. It's not what you have. It's not what you want. What did he say? In the state of nature, so you have to learn the mentality, okay? A lot of Americans have this mentality, probably the majority. In the natural state of nature, every individual has a right to life, liberty, freedom to do what I want, health, which just means nobody can cut my arm off. That's it. And possessions, I have a right to my possessions, my stuff. Okay, God gave the land to us, humans, so that we would cut down the trees and plant crops and exploit nature and become prosperous. That's what God wants, okay? We create wealth by working hard. And if you aren't wealthy, you're lazy, okay? It's your fault if you're not wealthy, because you could just work hard, no problem. The only purpose of government is the police. Someone tries to take my stuff. Oh, the police, call in the police, right? And then the military. Someone's trying to invade me, fight. So it's all about fighting other people who are getting you, right? So that people are adversarial, they're competitive. The only purpose of government is to prevent them from harming each other. That is not the ancient view, okay? The ancient view is we only flourish when we get along together, when we care about each other, when we have goodwill for each other. That's the only way for us to flourish. That's the ancient view, not the modern view. We have no right. The other thing very important from a colonial point of view, the natural relation between nations is war, right? My natural relation to you is adversity, okay? You don't want good for me, I don't want good for you, so we have to protect each other, ourselves. There's no right to education, no right to healthcare, no right to no environmental laws. I can do what I want with my property as long as I make it valuable. Native Americans and people in primitive societies like Indonesia, they don't develop their land into products. So we have a right to come and exploit their land. Do you understand that? God wants us to do this. You have to get that, right? That mentality. We didn't come here and say we're evil and we don't care. They said, oh no, we're good. We're doing what God wants. And these backward people don't get it, but maybe we can convert them to our religion, right? And if they resist, they're wrong. So we can kill them. Okay. All right. All right. Let's see. I think I can get this. Yeah. 2 punches on my this and I'm good. So the notion of being rational. What does it mean to be rational? Everybody want to be rational? You calculate the most efficient means to your own economic prosperity. How can I get rich? And if you're good at it, God blesses you. And if you're not good at it, it's because you're a sinner or you're lazy. Okay? That was the one view. The other view was the mathematicians who embraced Newtonian physics, which is a mechanistic worldview. We have pure reason and we detach it from the natural world. We impose it onto the natural world for our own economic well-being. So we ignore emotions, ignore biological drives, because that's anti-reason. Reason is pure reason. It's not emotional. Animals have no rights. They can be treated however we want to treat them. Only humans have reason, and they are of infinite worth, infinite worth. Nothing in the natural world has any worth compared to us, okay? So we should use animals for food and clothing, whatever we do with animals is just fine. Okay. All right. Adam Smith. Okay, so now you tie this to an economic system. He rejected the control by the rich and he promoted a free market, right? Every nation trades with every other nation. People work hard to create personal wealth, and together, everyone will be more prosperous. Keep the government out. Let the market decide. Free market. He condemned monopolies because that's cheating when the owners get together and say, you know, don't pay your workers more than this. Well, then it's not a free market, right? The idea was the employers offers you a contract, you're free. You can accept it, you can reject it. Go get another job. Okay. So the contract says you work 18 hours a day in a coal mine. Take it or leave it, right? It's terrible. But they talk to the other owners, don't offer anything better, right? So they basically controlled the market right from the beginning. But they said it's freedom, like you're free, just reject it, go find another job. You go to the other guy, 18 hours, 6 days a week, right? Do you understand this? It was dishonest from the beginning. And it was going to lead to a few very rich people and everybody else completely controlled by the rich, but it's free, okay? Free trade. Does this sound familiar? I hope so. The only way to flourish is to constantly grow the economy. And the only way to constantly grow, guess what, is to expand to the rest of the world. So here come the colonialists, right? Plus, our relationship to the world is one of war. You know, everybody's in it for themselves. Okay. He knew that eventually there would be a limit to natural resources, but that was so far into the future, you don't have to worry about it, right? And by then, everybody will know how wonderful science is and how great our lives are, and they will do whatever the scientists tell us they will do. I mean, obviously that's not happening, right? The scientists are saying, stop exploiting nature, and the economists, the corporations don't know we have to grow and like, hey, it didn't work, right? Do you understand? This is a dysfunctional system, but this is the philosophy driving our economic system still. And you're getting used. Okay. It was used to colonize, justify the way we treated them. It's not like we didn't say we're wicked, right? We said we're good and we are justified. They always have reasons. You have to remember this. People always have reasons, and they usually have an idea of God to justify what they're doing, or they're not going to convince anybody. Okay, most management systems are based on the goal still of continual growth, no concern for the effects on the natural environment or the cultural context. Okay, so with the scientific revolution and enlightenment, all this reasoning became the dominant values, with secular and materialistic orientation, the manipulative mentality of the industrial age. The new customs and activities resulted in the creation of a new social and political institutions that gave rise to a new academic pursuit. This is what happens in the colleges. Theory about specific economic activities, production, exchange, distribution, money, lending. And this is in the name of reason. So it's a mechanistic worldview. You treat the economy like a machine. You treat people like All they are these consumers, and you try to get them to buy stuff. You don't think about culture. You don't think about sustainability at all. All right, so that's the model. Max Weber was aware of this. He wrote about this. The capitalist mentality. People believe we have a moral obligation to work hard and get rich. Okay? If we get rich, it means God is blessing us. And if we don't, it means we're sinners. Okay? So classical economists consolidated economics into a set of dogmas. All right? Just principles, dogmas, not questioned, just dogmatic, that supported the existing class struggle. We don't have to give money to the poor. They're poor because they're lazy. So we don't have to distribute our wealth. All attempts at social improvement with the scientific argument that the laws of nature were operating and the poor are responsible. So again, and the developing countries just are backward and we're helping them out, right? We take their tea, we go to England and make tea bags, we sell back the tea bags, right? At like 400% profit. But you know, that's virtuous. They're too stupid and lazy to do it themselves, right? Good, you understood. Somebody gets this. It drives me nuts. So most management programs are still based on this. How to keep growing your institutions. I don't know if that's what you learned. And there's no concern for the effects on the environment or the cultural context. Okay, so I think I've already got this slide. I apologize. Okay, Max Weber, again, that's I edited my thing and okay. Here's another dogmatic belief, one of those dogmatic beliefs. Personal self-interest will lead to a flourishing society. Okay? The ancient people did not believe this at all. They said greed is what destroys societies. But the modern view is greed is what saves everything and makes everybody happy. Okay, you have to think about that. Positivism was social causation. So it's based on physics rather than biology. It's this very mechanistic top-down view. So social facts, beliefs or practices are the causes of social phenomena. Even though it's clear that the social facts are non-material, right? The belief in God, that's not material. It's an interpretation of life, right? You don't have, I believe in God because this tablecloth exists, right? I mean, it's about how the big picture, the meaning of life. That's what drives people, not, you know, whether you have a computer or not. Okay. But he insisted that you should treat everything like a physical. And if you figure out how to control behavior by positive reinforcement or negative, right? You do this, oh, you lose your job, you go to prison, whatever, and that'll work. But people, if they believe in God, they will go to prison for their belief, right? It doesn't work. They will fast, even though their body is saying, oh, eat, you know, they'll fast because of their idea. So ideas are much more powerful than any kind of material causation. But that's not the modern view, because then we can't control it. And we want to control it, so we don't want to believe that. Okay, so Durkheim actually did worry about this, but that it was just this huge cultural, everybody had this blind faith. The structuralists thought, oh, but there are these underlying forces that are going to take care of everything for us. We can just be greedy and everything will work out. Okay, most people in our society, especially the large social institutions, they subscribe to these concepts of an outdated worldview. And it's a major problem The solutions are there are solutions, but they require a shift in our way of thinking and our values. There's systemic problems, and they have to incorporate ecology, the integration, sustainability. So the clash between linear thinking, this mechanical thinking, and nonlinear patterns in the biosphere, the ecological networks and cycles, the web of life. There are three kinds of growth that have severe impacts on our natural environment and our well-being. Economic growth, just for its own sake, just more money, just a higher GDP. Doesn't matter what you're selling. It doesn't matter that the rich keep getting richer. It doesn't, the distribution of wealth doesn't matter. The exploitation, nothing matters, just growth, growth, growth. Corporate growth and population growth. This is amazing. There are famous economists that win all these prizes that are coming out right now. The number one principle for growth is have more people. More people, as if that is going to solve anything. We're destroying life on Earth, but we need more people. They really say that. I couldn't believe it when I read the book. Then he said, well, we have to put incentives in place, right? We have to poke that behavior. We have to do pleasure pain, okay? He's proud of this. 70% of the countries in the world have governments that are trying to incentivize women to have more children. In this day and age, even now. And he says, you know what? It didn't work very well. Oh, really? Because all the women who have education and self-control and they want a career, they don't take your money, right? They don't want another kid. They want a career and a couple kids. The women who take the money are the poor women who have no education. They'll take the money, they'll have another kid. Actually, that doesn't help very much because you have social programs and they don't help your GDP. Like, he couldn't figure that out as common sense. Do you understand how ridiculous this is? But it still sells and it still makes economists popular, famous, rich. They literally still say this. It's such an illusion. There are huge differences between the market price and the true costs, right? This guy does not factor in the price in terms of natural environment or cultural environment. Okay, the financial flows are designed without any ethical framework and without any ecological framework. Social inequality and exclusion are inherent features of this. Oh, well, just the way it is. We got to keep growing. Okay, one of the tenets of this view, neoliberalism, is keep the government out. Let there be free trade. Poor countries should concentrate. I don't know if you know the history of your country, but I'm sure this is part of it. A few special goods for export so that we can get foreign exchange. We can get, in the international market. And we should import most other commodities. I think Indonesia has probably done this. This has led to the rapid depletion of the natural resources required to produce export crops. Palm oil, wood, what in Papua, I can't, there's some big thing, Freeport. Anyway, there's many examples of this. It's just there's Indonesia. Global capitalism does not alleviate poverty and social exclusion. As a matter of fact, it makes them worse, right? There's a centralization of wealth in the international corporate system. And they don't factor in social costs at all. It's all about growing the economy. The World Trade Organization was founded based on free trade, assuming Adam Smith. They keep referring to this stuff. However, it became clear that the new rules were unsustainable and were producing many interconnected fatal consequences: social disintegration, breakdown of democracy because the rich rule everything, deterioration of the environment, financial crises, you know about that, and increasing poverty and alienation. It doesn't work. Stop believing this dogma. Yeah, okay. So this, okay, global, okay, I'm sorry about this. I was trying to revise it. Anyway, we have a new attitude. We have to have a new attitude to learn from nature and cooperate with nature. Don't try to control it. Okay, now, the systems view implies a change in values from self-assertion and individual rights and individuals striving for success to empowerment as empowering others. The thinkers, they wanted to use the social sciences to create people who were virtuous just because of their conditioning. Instead, right now, the methodologies and techniques for manipulating human behavior mostly exist to corrupt human beings so that people will buy unnecessary material goods and you convince people to be afraid of other people so that people will agree to buying weapons. All right. So unlimited expansion will only lead to disaster. The goods produced are unnecessary. It increases pollution and depletion of resources. Okay, so that's kind of a summary. Seeing a company as a machine, this is management. All changes are designed by someone else. You re-engineer the organization, right? You're engineering, you're re-engineering. You're not developing a culture. You're just being this machine model. It's mostly unconscious. People don't realize when they take the classes that they bought into a worldview. Okay, we have to get past this worldview and we have to move into a biologically based systems conception. Economists fail to recognize the economy is just one aspect of the whole ecological and social fabric. Most economic models, even in the academy, management, education in the academy is the assumption of perpetual growth. Most of what scientists do now is not life furthering and life preserving, but life destroying. With physicists designing weapon systems of mass destruction, chemists contaminating the global environment, biologists releasing new and unknown types of microorganisms, psychologists torturing animals in the name of progress, we have to change, right? And so the management systems also have to change so that they reinforce sustainability, not just growth. Researchers also realize in the social science, social networks exhibit the same general principles as biological networks. There's an organized ensemble, right? So each social system has a mission or a purpose. It has the things that don't change. And then you hire people coming in. They fit in, they find their spot in the system. And they become part of the system. But the system should always be open for growth. So the next generation expands or adapts, leads as the world changes, the systems have to change. They have to adapt, but they don't, collapse. They just constantly become more fit with sustainability and cultural. Okay, so that's the new model. In the long run, the organizations that are truly alive will flourish only when we change our economic system so it becomes life enhancing. Just to give an example, the system's view of health. All disorders are psychosomatic. They involve an interplay of mind and body in the culture. So you have to change the culture. You can't just give people a drug and send them right back home where they got depressed in the first place, right? The present economy is a threat to our health. So specifically the Dutch, do you know this? They got Indonesians addicted to sugar because they could make money off of them. Dutch people don't eat that much sugar. They know it's bad for you. But they had sugar plantations, and so they purposely got Indonesians addicted. And Indonesians are still addicted, right? White rice, white bread, it all digests in your body like sugar. So a lot of Indonesians have diabetes, or they have, you should stop eating that way and say, that's colonialism. I'm not going to give in to that, you know? Don't say, I love sugar. Say, no, I'm not going to let myself get used, right? Somebody's making money off of me. Forget it. So, but that's happening everywhere, right? You know that international corporations are making money selling people food that makes them sick. Then they make money taking care of people that have diabetes and heart disease. Then the pharmaceutical companies develop all these drugs because people get mentally unhealthy because they're having all these ups and downs, and you sell them fantasies. Oh, life is beautiful and wonderful. It's actually not like that. Oh, I'm getting depressed. Oh, just take a drug, right? It's really, don't let yourself get treated like that. Like, have some self-respect. All right, good. It's hard to watch. Okay, so the new understanding, organisms, social systems, ecosystems, is a different view of reality, and it also applies to politics, business, healthcare, education, every aspect of the culture. It has to start with an ecological awareness. Now, the next point is the ancient wisdom traditions are all this way. So in Panchasila, it has the ancient wisdom traditions, right? They have a view of God that's very Aristotelian, actually. Aristotle thought there is one ordering force and everything is connected to it, okay? But that's consistent with Hinduism, Buddhism, Confucianism, Islam, Christianity. It's all, all those traditions are truly based on that view. And so Panchasila is accurate, and also the nature worship, the indigenous people. So this is the new paradigm. It's consistent with science. It's consistent with social science. It's not going back to the good old days, right? It's taking the insights, taking the science, and creating something better than ever. The systems view is ecological view that is grounded in spiritual awareness, which is being connected to other people, having relationships, having community, just like the natural world is connected. Everything's connected. Okay, so the perennial philosophy. Then the word religion is another colonial word, okay? It's important to know this. It was used to label developing countries as backward and primitive, right? Religion is anti-science. These people have religion, we have science. Only Christianity is compatible with science, so we should convert you. If you don't want to convert, you're backward and primitive and we can exploit you, right? Okay, so that's not what the people thought. And I have Hindu friends and Buddhist friends. It didn't even occur to them to think like that. It's not a doctrine. Aristotle said virtue is not a logos. It's not a bunch of words. It's a way of life. And so Hinduism was a way of life, right? People didn't think about it. They just lived this way. And Buddhism is a way of life. But also Islam was primarily a way of life, right? Jesus died too soon so that people did not learn, right? Jesus hadn't been married, he hadn't had kids, he didn't have a job, right? I don't know how to apply this to my life. So Muhammad came, right? He finished it up. He gave them a way of life. It's mostly a way of life. It's not a set of doctrines, right? The Quran says Christians are bad, so let's go kill them, right? Or the Westerners, they thought Islam was horrible. They never even knew a Muslim. I mean, the things they write about Islam is unbelievably ignorant. They never met Muslim, but they know, and they're basing their view on facts. Excuse me. It was really dishonest. Do you understand that? I think it's important to read this stuff, right? Even though it's old, just like, because we keep unconsciously absorbing it, accepting it, and we shouldn't. Okay, so Socrates, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, Hindu guru, Confucius. They all exercised these classical virtues. It was their way of life. So here's the classical virtues. First of all, everything is about a middle ground. There's no absolute right or wrong, but it's not relativism. It's not relativism. It's not absolutism. It's ancient wisdom. And it's common sense, actually. So what it is common sense systematized. So you can see, oh yeah, every human being gets into these situations, and we're always talking to each other and ourselves about, okay, what's too much to eat? What's too little to eat? What kind of food should I have? How should I eat? When should I eat? Right? We always ask that. And it's common sense that some people, my husband, he was incredible. He never wanted to eat too much. He never wanted to eat sugar. Like, oh, I wish I could be like him. I wanted to, right? But okay, I'm going to make myself, So my husband had what's called a mind. He has integrity. He doesn't want to do anything that's unhealthy. I had what's called moral strength. I wanted to do what was wrong, but my reason, I made myself, right? This is, again, I hope, common sense. Then there's moral weakness. People want to eat sugar and they just say, oh, I give up. I'm going to have my sugar, right? It's moral weakness. Like, you're wrong, you regret it, but you do it anyway. And then there's self-indulgent. There's people who really don't know sugar is bad for you, right? I have had students whose parents did not know potato chips are not good for you. Oh, they're potatoes. Okay, so there's all these problems with and of course the food system around the world is completely dysfunctional because of money. It's been corrupted by money. Okay, courage is another very basic drive. So what are our basic drives, right? Eating, drinking, sex. We have to do that to survive, but we have to learn the middle ground. Courage is another one because we're very vulnerable, right? Children are born, oh my gosh, they can't do anything for like 15, 16 years. It's not like a little baby duck whose mommy sort of swims around and they kind of learn by imitating, and pretty soon they're a grown-up, right? Or a baby this or a baby, the elephants, whatever. These human babies are like, oh, they don't know anything year after year, like they're completely helpless. And that's why parents are so powerful, because if they abuse their power, the child really gets messed up, right? So you have to be really careful to make sure your kids aren't too afraid, right? If oh, don't do that. Oh, don't do that. I mean, the kid will not be able to function. On the other hand, kids do stupid things. Don't run out into the street, please. Don't be impulsive. But it's just this constant, long years of habituation. And then when they come to college, they should have good judgment and be able to make their own decisions, right? The whole goal of a good parent is to teach their kid first by example. Then in high school, you start discussing with them. What do you think? Why? What do I think? So they learn to act on reason, but they're still at home. Then they go to college and they learn really how to connect with other people, how to figure out, oh, we all have reason. We all make judgments like this all the time. Even if you grew up Christian and I grew up Muslim, even if you're from Indonesia and you're from Malaysia, we do this all the time. It's common sense. So the other thing Human beings are afraid, obviously, disease, pain, death, aging. Animals aren't afraid of that thing because they don't really know what's going on, right? They don't know, geez, I'm going to be older in 10 years. I don't want to be older. Or, geez, I'm going to die. I don't want to, animals, I'm sorry, they're interesting. I like them, but they don't have to make decisions about what to be afraid of. But we do, and that's why we make a lot of really bad choices, right? We develop phobias. We're afraid of all sorts of stuff we shouldn't be afraid of, and we're not afraid of all sorts of stuff we should be afraid of. We can make really bad judgments about that. Animals would all die off if they made bad judgments. They can't. So, social ostracism, because we're creatures of culture, it really matters if you get kicked out of the society, right? Because you're social, you need social interaction. If you can't survive economically, you have to survive not just by going out, and having a farm. You have to succeed in the economic system because we're cultural beings. We set up a whole cultural system. They're afraid of being persecuted by powerful people if you criticize them. So Buddha criticized the Hindu gurus for being corrupt. He got in trouble. Socrates criticized the Athenians. He got killed. Jesus criticized the religious leaders. He got killed. Muhammad was critical, right? He got chased out of Mecca, right? Almost died. All right. So this is the main thing, is that they all had the courage to stand up to powerful people and say, you're corrupt. Okay. And we all should be able to do that. We should be like that. We should criticize our own societies. We should be critical citizens, not because we hate Indonesia, because we want to prevent it from being destroyed by greedy, powerful people, right? So we need to speak up. The other thing is being even-tempered, not situations involving anger. So those are, there's a lot of situations where you should be angry at this person. You just have to do it for the right reason in the right way at the right time. And don't overrule, right? Have you ever, I don't know, this might be dated. Have you ever gotten on something and you need to get something done? And somebody says, oh, that's not my department. Go to this person. Oh, that's not go to this person. And he gets so frustrated, right? Tell me who I need to talk to get this done. Does that make sense? And then I start getting angry at the poor person that, and I keep telling them, I'm not angry at you. Do you understand? I'm angry at the system. It's driving me bananas. And usually they say, yeah, if I were you, I'd be angry. It's okay. And I just don't take it personally. I know it's your job. But anyway, we do that all the time. Situations involving anger. We can, because we're basically underneath the anger, we're afraid. There's something we want to take care of to make us less vulnerable. And this is frustrating, right? We're not able to do it. So ultimately it goes back to a survival issue. But culture just really messes with that a lot. And rational ambition is that you develop your talent, you find out what you really like to do, that you think you can make a contribution. You go and get educated according to whatever your society tells you to get that piece of paper, so that then you can use that expertise to help other people. Okay. So you could say that Confucius, Buddha, Muhammad, Jesus, they were also ambitious in the sense that they were not rich and powerful, but they spoke up to the rich, and that's ambition, right? That's going outside of the social hierarchy. And it's thinking you have a talent for telling people they're corrupt. Do you understand? So I think they all did that. Rational honor is that you have a high quality of life beyond what your job demands or what the laws demand. So every organization I know of has an honor day, and they honor people who go way past what their job requires in order to create a good community, in order to link people together. Does that make sense to you? There was a woman who worked in the counseling office, but she started a recycling center. She started a free clothes play store just on her own, and it made the college community better. So honor is important. Sociability is you put up with these small injustices in order for everybody to get along. So if you think about all the ways that people say nasty things, that's not fair, all these day-to-day things that happen, if you really took them all seriously, there would be no culture. Everybody would just be mad at everybody all the time, right? So you let a lot of things go. Does that make sense intuitively? You probably even do it unconsciously. After a while, it's just a habit. Friendships, it's very important to bond with a lot of people in a lot of capacities, especially if you're a leader. You should care as much about the janitor as you care about the rector, right? Everybody is a human being. Everybody has the same hopes and fears. Everybody makes judgments about similar types of situations. Self-knowledge is really important, especially for leaders. Admit what you don't know and don't know. Admit your mistakes. Be humble. Every religious tradition condemns arrogance. You guys think you're more virtuous than you are. You think you know more than you know. About God, about the serious questions. That is the ultimate arrogance. It's awful. It's evil. We are social and political by nature. We need to live together as fellow citizens. This is the opposite of John Locke, okay? John Locke was individualism, rationalism. I calculate my interest, you calculate your interest, everything will be great. The ancient view is no, we are social and political. We can't develop ourselves except through these huge networks. Right? We need a huge educational system. We need a huge healthcare system where the people who are the experts use their expertise to help lift up people into the middle class. The virtue of wanting to live moderately, wanting to be middle class, not wanting to have more, but wanting to work hard enough to get into the middle class, knowing what kind of laws and institutions will lead to a strong and stable middle class, how to distribute social goods like education and healthcare so everybody can get what they need. Okay, if the government of the USA had given me a full scholarship to get a PhD in math, that's a waste of money. I don't have any ability, I would flunk out. Like, don't give me that, right? So each person needs something different to develop their talents and their interests. So the leaders have to make judgment. The ability to, how do you punish lawbreakers? Try to do it so that they can get back into society again. In the US, we throw them into prison, we treat them like dirt, then we send them right back in the original environment. We don't give them any job skills, we don't give them a job, we don't give them housing. They go right back to what they were doing, which is selling drugs, and then they end up in prison again. How to apply the laws. That's what judges do, and that's what juries do. All of these are connected to emotional maturity and a strong character. All of these virtues. Do you understand this? That they're moral virtues. You can't make good judgments about these things unless you have a strong character. But then we have the intellectual virtues. Those are the virtues of science, math, engineering, technology, persuasive speaking, creating arguments. That's what you associate with school. But those virtues can be, people can excel in the intellectual virtues and be really wicked, okay? So the people that do the most damage in a society are smart people who are wicked. And then they use their intelligence and their knowledge to create greed, right? That's what the people who run CEO, the corporate international system, they're smart. They're just completely corrupt, right? So that's what Aristotle knew. That's what all the ancient wisdom traditions understand. You have Muhammad or Jesus talking to somebody who's smart, but they're wicked. So during the Enlightenment, the goal was to develop a whole system based on the intellectual virtues and base it on culture, try to base the whole culture on knowledge, which was a mistake. Instead, we have storytelling. So we should tell stories about how every religious tradition can be corrupted by power and how the famous religious leaders pointed that out. There were religious leaders that were corrupt. So why should we believe religious leaders blindly now? There were political leaders. We should never blindly believe. So they promoted critical thinking. Ancient wisdom involves a lot of critical thinking. The stereotype of the moderns is that ancient people were stupid, right? They were anti-science, they were anti-critical thinking, they blindly believed that. That is not true. It's not true. It's just a stereotype. So wisdom texts are filled with these stories. There's many stories. The goal is to inspire people to want to be virtuous, because the stories end up with people being destroyed. People are wicked, everybody gets hurt. All right, so here's where we come to Indonesia. So Pancasila, all right? All 5 principles of Pancasila are systems thinking. So Indonesia has a very progressive systems thinking ideology. So in the US, we have this Enlightenment view. We're stuck. Our people keep referring back to this thing that's totally dysfunctional. So Indonesians have a good ideology. They just have to really cultivate it and connect it to the systems view and say, no, we're not a backward developing religious country. We're actually a progressive, cutting edge systems. But in your generation, like, you have to do this. I can't do it because I'm not Indonesian. And I'm older, right? I can't lead the country. I can't change. But if you're a teacher of students, you are literally educating the next generation, right? So I think, it's really important to me, but I can't make people do stuff. I'm just telling you, here's the theory, do what you want, but I think you do have a good opportunity. The US is really destroying itself. I don't know if you know this, but I mean, we're just going to bomb everybody, and we're going to end up, that China's going to end up richer than us anyway, but we're going to bomb. That doesn't solve anything. It makes our economy worse, and it gives China more power, right? All we're doing is giving China more power. Did you notice that? That's arrogance, that's ignorance, that's classic. An empire in decline, they won't admit it. They're just going to bomb everybody and be the hegemon, right? I knew 60 years ago that China would eventually be the most powerful. And I thought, if we would go green, if we would become sustainable way back in the 1970s, we wouldn't have any fights with the Mideast and all that oil. Now it's cost us $3 trillion or something with all those stupid wars in the Mideast. If we'd gone green, right, we'd be rich. We were way ahead technologically. We could be selling the whole world green products, be rich for a long time. But we didn't. We let the fossil fuel companies control our whole culture. So now China is going green. So I don't think you should hate China, or, you basically shouldn't let yourself get used by either one. Say, okay, I'm going to make deals with the West. I'm going to make deals with China in my interest, right? I'm not going to let myself get used. I'm not going to read all this propaganda that's anti-China or anti-West. We're going to make our own judgments, right? Stop colonizing us. Stop treating us like we're stupid, right? Okay. Just remember that the economic system is this horrible paradigm and try to get out of it. So anyway, the 5 principles are very much based on systems. It's this holistic view of God based on wisdom. It's humanitarianism in the ancient view of humanism, of humanity, which is great. It's a much better view than the modern view. It's unity and plurality. So the ancient tradition acknowledged people have different callings, different things, different ways to contribute. Some people like governing, some people like teaching young children, some people like teaching high school, you know, everything. Some people like coaching, some people like being lawyers and protecting rights. Some people like doctors, helping people get healthy. There's lots of things. So it's unity and diversity. And it doesn't matter what color your skin or what religion, or where you come from, anywhere in the world, there's these same types of situations. Then number 4 is especially, it's incredible, very much like the Greeks, because the whole doctrine of the mean is you have to talk to other people, right? About, well, what's too much, what's too little, what's appropriate. So number 4 is gaining wisdom through deliberation, conversation, listening to other people. And then number 5 is a social contract, much better than the US has. The government does owe people education and healthcare, but then they have to use it to give back, right? They have to help. They can't just get rich. You know, we didn't give you this money so you could walk away from our society and not care. Very different than the US, much better. Especially at the UN schools, right? Especially here. So you think about, okay, here's the general thing. Here's the specific thing. Teachers, lecturers, professors, they can show the link between systems thinking and Islam. Then they can show the link between Islam and the other traditions. Then they can develop an integrated curriculum. They can integrate character development with intellectual. And then they can really encourage, go into STEM, go into green STEM. This is what God wants. Allah does not want us to destroy the creation, right? So go into any subject you want. Don't be afraid of science just because it's been used, so it's been abused against us. Just go into green science, go into systems. Okay. So Indonesian students should be able to think critically about political life. They should be able to think about each ruler in Indonesia since Sukarno. How did they interpret Pancasila, right? Did they use Pancasila? They hide behind Pancasila to get power and wealth, or did they use Pancasila to actually try to create a middle class, right? So Sukarno had a very different use of Pancasila than Suharto, right? Suharto, I think, you know, he turned it upside down, right? Pancasila is a very tolerant, you know, yeah, but oh no, you have to believe, you know, well, whose view? Suharto's view, like that. He turned it upside down, but I mean, you know, that happens in our country too. Freedom just means the freedom to get rich. It's not anything else. So don't worry, don't get too discouraged. Just learn about it. And what about Mr. Habibi? And what about Mr. Oh, I can't pronounce the name that starts with a Y. And then what about Jacobi? Like, just study all that so that you become critical thinkers, but also think this is what I think it really should, right? Should be systems. It should be, this is what it should be. Here's how the politicians abuse it, right? That's all very important. And all those texts, the Bible and the Quran, all those texts are teaching you critical thinking. They're not blind faith. Okay, so so how to do this in an institution? This is really important. This is the systems view. Before you interview, give them a long statement of your mission. This is our mission. Where you win, Indonesia, Pancasila. We have an integrated curriculum, right? Then, and the United Nations Sustainability Goals. This is where we are. This is where we want to go. Show the connection. You know, our mission is definitely current thinking. But, okay, make sure that when you interview people, they want that mission, right? They agree with that mission. If they don't agree with the mission, they're not going to fit, right? And it's not a power grab. It's just, you can't have an institution unless you have some common mission statement of the good. You all have to be aiming for something. So you create a system of feedback loops. So the new view is this constant nonlinear feedback loops. Well, so the institution shows that it wants to adapt to changes. Well, and these changes will really be huge in the next few years because Bill Gates wants a carbon-free world by 2050, and he's got billions of dollars to invest. Xi Jinping also wants China to be carbon-free by 2060. So there's going to be huge, huge changes. So right now you feel exploited by the Chinese, maybe, but they're going to set up this whole international system, a green grid and all this stuff. So try to make good judgments, right? When China is just exploiting you and when they're actually can help you, and, you know, don't be fooled either way. Same with the West. Okay. So leaders at UN schools should point out the connection between these things. And leaders should organize weekly meetings so that everyone from the janitor to the rector can come to make suggestions, right? Everyone should be given, you have an idea of the good in this institution, we will listen to you. That's Pancasila number 4, right? We will have a conversation. You know, how can we remove the trash better? How can we have recycling better? How can we have the rector, you know, represents us better? Everything. Show respect for everyone's humanity and model those virtues, set the example. Again, if somebody's really busy, it doesn't have to be the same person. It's just something. Every week, if somebody is frustrated or if somebody got a new idea, there's somewhere they can go to show the institution is adapting. All right. So this is, again, the same Pancasila, wisdom through deliberation. Community engagement projects are a good way to get professors to connect back to people. All right. Okay, so that was my ideas about community engagement. The other thing is the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. It's important. Indonesia always supports the United Nations. And you just tell them, yeah, there's a reason for that. And then Jeffrey Sachs is a very big supporter of a whole lot of stuff. And he's Aristotelian. So I know why he's Aristotelian. So I wish you the best. I know that Indonesia had the G20 recently in Bali. And the president of ASEAN is the president of Indonesia right now. So Indonesia wants to step up and have a place in the global community. And I think they should. So I've been permission to give, create a journal and a book to work with Indonesians about connecting humanism with Pancasila and Indonesia and the UN schools. So there are more moderate Muslims in Indonesia than any other country. The scholars are writing more articles than any other country about Islam and religious pluralism. So all of that is important. It's the US is no longer the torchbearer of democracy, like nobody believes that. So now China is saying we're a real democracy. Indonesia can say, well, we're another version of democracy, right? There should be more than one kind of democracy. It's not all individual rights, right? So it's a time to be creative and create a global civilization. And Indonesia should just take its turn. I'm going to play a role in that. That's all I have to say. And the management, keep your mission in mind, because all the management in the past is treat everybody like a cog in a machine. So that's not good. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you Okay, thank you for insightful presentation. Thank you for sharing your ideas about sustaining ethics in working culture. Now we are in the discussion section. Maybe in the on-site member, any question for her?
I am sis.
Okay.
Okay. Wait a minute. From the online member, right? Okay.
Yes,
Miss
I am.
Pina Umurifati. Okay,
Yeah.
silahkan Miss Pina.
Thanks for your opportunity. Here I want to ask about, are there ethical standard that educator must follow in their
Okay, slowly please, Miss Pina.
Repeat ya sis ya, maaf.
Okay,
Sambil
in
belajar
Indonesia,
ini.
don't worry.
Oh ya, baik sis. Di sini saya ingin menanyakan mengenai apakah ada standar etika yang harus diikuti oleh pendidik dalam hubungan mereka dengan siswa, orang tua, dan juga rekan kerjanya seperti itu. Jika ada, boleh deh disebutkan gitu standarnya gitu.
Oke, thank you. Terima kasih Mbak Vina. Any
You're
other question
welcome.
from online members? I'm sorry, Miss Vina, you come from where?
I come from Magelang.
Oh, Magelang.
Ya,
Yes. Your institution?
UIN Sunan Kalijaga, Yogyakarta.
Oh, also from UIN Sunan Kalijaga ya.
Ya.
Thank you for your question. And the next,
Okay, you're welcome.
any question here? Okay. Maybe I will help you, Martha, to understand the question from Miss Vina. She asked about any ethical standard that we should follow, especially for teacher and student. Maybe you can share about it.
Okay, so again, that notion of ethical standards is a bunch of rules, right? That's a modern notion, right? Virtue is not a logos. It's not a bunch of standards. It's an paradigm. It's a way of life. So what you really need to model is somebody that really likes helping people out, right? That really likes being self-controlled, being courageous, and just model that, be a whole person. Everything's integrated. So, there's this rule, make sure that you make clear to a student why they got the grade they got, right? Okay, I mean, who's against that, right? But how do you make that part of your character? How do you communicate to them? And I do this, I try, but it's hard. I say, look, in my classes, we don't have tests. We just write papers. And I tell them, because we read the Analects and we read these things, I tell them the first day, I don't know what you think, right? I don't know how you think. I don't know what you think. I have no idea what you're going to think when you read Confucius Analects or the Quran. You have to tell me. You tell me what you're thinking. I will tell you if you have a good argument, right? You can't say, well, I read the Quran, but I know that Muslims are all going to hell because I pray to Jesus. I said, no, don't take a philosophy class because you will flunk, right? And all I tell them on the first day is that, look, Jesus preached the golden rule, treat other people the way you want to be treated. Confucius also has an intellect, treat other people the way you want to be treated. Do you think it's true if Jesus says it, but it's not true if Confucius says it? If you think that's so, you shouldn't take this class. You'll have trouble, right? Because there's no reason to think that. And this is a philosophy class, right? You can't spend the whole semester telling me, I know because my preacher said so, right? Or there's a quote in the Bible somewhere. This is not going to work. So I just tell them, I can't change your mind, but you should probably take a different class, right? Because they do have some choices. But then if the students want to be in my class, I try to communicate always. I can't tell you what you think. Here's some ideas. I have small enough classes where they come to me, each of them comes to me with an outline. We talk about the outline. Okay. So it's still in the evaluations. I don't know what she wants. In other words, I want to get an A and I don't know how to get an A. And she told me my thesis wasn't clear enough and I can't control that, but I think it's a mistake to have the whole higher education be based on objective exams, because life is not like that at all. So as soon as you get straight A's in school, but you can't function in the world. Somebody tell me the answer. Somebody tell me what I have to do. I'll do it. And I'll go home. That'll be it. That is not good practice for becoming an adult. So in college, I think you must start thinking about your thinking. You must start thinking critically about other people, but also about yourself. Maybe you're wrong. And so I try to tell them, here's the rationale behind what I do. But I still have some students. Some students absolutely will not stop believing their whole life. Just tell me what to do. I want to get an A in life. And, they become people who really like control. There's certain jobs like elementary education, right? A teacher in a first grade classroom needs to just totally be in charge, right? They have all the answers. They can't have kids thinking, I'm not sure I'm going to listen to the teacher, right? So some of the students that didn't like my classes were elementary ed, and that was fine. It's just people have different callings and they're really good at it. And I just tell you, you're going to be really good at that. And I'll help you get through this class. But anyway, the whole point, it goes way beyond following some rule, right? I have assessment, right? And the assessment tools are extremely anti-wisdom. Okay? This is really awful. They're totally modern. So, for example, the whole point of Socrates says, the reason I'm wise is because I don't think I know what I don't know. I know what I know, and I know what I don't. And if I don't know, I ask other people. The thing is, because I know what I also know if they think they know something they don't know. But that's the greatest gift to a democracy. You're never going to have a democracy unless people are capable of that kind of self-examination, right? Okay, so the trouble is, what if someone's trying to assess me and the students say, you know what? At the beginning of this class, I thought I knew a whole lot of stuff. And now I don't think I know. Is that going to go well on an assessment? You made them stupider, right? Do you understand this? How absolutely at odds with wisdom the assessment tools are? They're very modern. Okay, give me a test at the beginning. I don't know anything about your subject matter. Give me a test at the end. Wow, I know something, you know, but it's all this like, who was John Stuart Mill? And, you know, I've seen these multiple choice tests for philosophy and they have nothing to do with, they have to do with memorizing, right, for the test. But I did figure out a way to get around it. Tricky. So I start out the first day, the students, I ask them, what is your worldview? Worldview, what the heck's that? It's whatever you think it is. You just write it down. Every class we have, you have to include in your response, do you think you'll include this, something from this class in your final paper worldview, right? So they're basically expanding their worldview. And then at the end, geez, I actually learned something, right? But do you understand now that's not the way the system is designed. It's not designed for people to constantly be expanding their minds. It's designed for them to memorize some stuff and take a test. So I'm trying to trick the system, but the system is modern. The assumption is more knowledge is going to save the world. More knowledge is not going to save the world. The smartest people in the world are destroying life on Earth, destroying civilizations. It's just as, you know, it's completely dysfunctional and we keep falling into it. And I'm here to tell you, you've already got the paradigm in Panchasila, just do it. Just go for it. Okay, that's a long answer, I understand. Did that help at all?
Okay, thank you, Prof. Martha, for your perspective about the standard of etika. Ms. Vina, any follow-up question after the answer from Prof. Martha?
Alhamdulillah sudah sangat jelas dan detail. Terima kasih.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Vina. Maybe any question? We have 2 minutes.
Here's a question. Oh, okay. Is that the question? How to create a culture in campus space?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. On different, you know, using different personality types to create a culture, right? It's a good
Oh yeah,
point.
how to create culture, good working in campus based on different personality.
Right.
Okay.
So, you know, the students just know that they want Indonesia to develop and they want to follow modern Islam. And so they just, some student says, I really like math and I'm good at math, but I'm going to use my math education to get involved with green engineering or to teach students and keep, you know, within a context of valuing sustainability, right? You have recycling programs on campus, right? The institution is constantly reinforcing that. So some other student says, oh, I hate math. I like history, right? So that's great. So I'm going to teach history in a way that shows that greed destroys things and power just destroys. Everybody just gets destroyed. What's the point? And so that's what Aristotle said. He said, if you really want a stable society for your children and grandchildren, you should actually rule for the sake of the rules. Because if all you do is give the money to your children, people will become unstable and they will not have a good society to live in. So justice pays off in the end. It's not just idiots that are naive and they care about justice and then they get completely bowled over, right? This is happening right now, right? Oh, China only cares about themselves. The West only cares about themselves. We're getting abused from both sides. But the truth is, if Westerners start showing they actually care, then those countries will make deals with them. If the Chinese show that they actually care, then the countries will go with them. And the main thing for Indonesia and the countries is I don't have to choose. Like if I do a deal with the West, I don't want China to sanction me. And if I do a deal with China, I don't want the West to sanction. That's dishonest and it's wicked, right? All it means is might makes right. The trouble is the West is going to lose if they do that because China's got way better organized and they're organized. That's what I like about them. They have a plan. They have a 5-year plan and they go decide how to adapt their plan. And then they have another plan, right? Whereas in our country, in a lot of democracies, you know, one administration signs on to the Paris Agreement and the TPP. Then the next administration says, no, we're going to, you know, not agree to that. We're going to throw that out the window. So how can Indonesia or any country do a deal with the US when one administration is fair and the other one is not? Like, how do you deal with this country? Whereas China, right? I mean, you have to find out, are they really helping you out? Are they really doing what they say? I mean, the thing I think about, it's really in China's interest to treat you better than the West, because then you will, right? Make deals with China. I know in Africa, there's a lot of African countries who are gravitating toward China. There's this debate about the UN, whether the International Monetary System will go into the UN. There's this huge disruption of power, but I just think in the end, the countries that actually help out the developing countries will have an advantage if they can communicate that. And does that make sense to the rest of you? It's not naive to be nice. And that's what Aristotle said. So what else is new? Like your presidents, right? There's a level of corruption, right? I help my buddies, whatever. But at the end of the day, I think the ruler that actually helps the people in the long term will probably get the respect, and Indonesia will be better off than that. Like, it doesn't always happen, but at the end of the day, it's a better bet. It's a better bet that if you start treating people and you communicate, you show them that you'll have more stability, and the people that you like who take over the next generation will be trusted. As you know what I mean? I don't think it's naive. I think it's really realistic. But that's ancient stuff. It's like that.
Okay. Thank you, Martha, for answering Mr. Naim's question. Maybe I'm sorry, this is the last question from this from our discussion, because there is 2:30 p.m. right? What's that?
Okay, good.
Oh, Mr. Bas, you want to ask? Okay. Time is yours. A special time to you to ask to Prof. Martha.
Okay, thank you for the time. Hello, ma'am. Okay, my name is Sheikhul Basir. Okay, I asking about today's. We know that phenomenon about TikTok in social media that shift the culture
That what?
Shifted the culture.
Shapes the culture.
Shift the culture.
Yeah, okay.
How do we as educators deal with the phenomenon?
Okay, good. That's good.
For the example, they do unnatural things. They like doing negative things maybe on TikTok or other social media. Okay.
Okay, so earlier today I gave a presentation about that. Because I went to a conference about child marriage. So this is just one example. So there's some movie stars and big influencers who are advocating a more conservative Islam and child marriage, right? Which is bad. But the presenters are these Western educated, and they have, 50 charts about what's going on. How do we fix this? Well, we have tougher laws. We have tougher, in other words, outside punishments, right? We punish the behavior and then they'll behave. And I'm saying, no, the ancient view isn't like that at all. So what should you do? I taught in Bangladesh at an all-women's school, and we talked about the life history of their aunts and mothers and grandmas and, all these women. Oh my gosh, this one girl from Nepal, her grandmother got married at age 7. Okay. I mean, the first day I went to class and I was going to talk about falling in love with love. Okay, do you know when people get married, you wonder, do they really know the character of that person? Or are they just in love with the feeling of being loved, right? So you get it. Okay, you get it. Okay, the students in my class look at each other and they go, boy, she hasn't been around here very long. So they say, Professor Beck, most of the marriages we go to are planned. It's not about love at all. And it's like, okay, I gotta figure out something else. But this is what I would suggest: to find some religious leaders, to find some other influencers, some other movie stars, some other, people, influencers, and to set up a different social media site, or to actually take one that has a lot of viewers and add. Okay. And this is literally true from what my students said. They said, I'll just tell a story based on what a student told me. So you go and find a conservative Muslim man. And he says, I really believe Allah wants me to marry my daughter because I don't want her to get raped or engage in promiscuity, and then she would be ostracized. I really feel like it's my responsibility. And I don't want those Westerners telling me about the feminists and the rights and all that stuff. I don't need to get lectured to, because they're already destroying our culture. They're destroying Indonesia. They're just a bunch of colonialists telling us we're backward. I mean, this guy doesn't have to be stupid, right? So then he says, so I had these daughters who were very rebellious. They wouldn't listen to me, right? I was so mad. And they got scholarships and they went to college, and they say, I'm not going to let you do this to me. And I was really mad. Then I got sick, or I had an accident. I could not provide for my family. My wife could not provide because she was uneducated. I had younger children. I was desperate. My daughters had gone to college. They had jobs and they sent money home. I changed my mind, right? I didn't think about the fact I might get sick. I might die. I might, I'm vulnerable. But my daughters now are helping out our family. Like, we'd be desperate without that. So I regret, I made a terrible mistake. And I'm so glad my daughters were rebellious and awful. It's like, oh, and then I have a religious imam. He says, wait a sec, Muhammad treated women as equals. Muhammad gave women, first of all, with the inheritance. Women were considered property. Muhammad in the Quran, women get 50% of the inheritance. That was extremely radical. It means women can be economically self-sufficient. Muhammad's first wife, 15 years older, she was a businesswoman. She was economically self-sufficient. So now I think Muhammad wants my daughters to be economically self-sufficient, to go into business. In order to get good at business, they have to go to school, but they could be lawyers, they could be anything, because Muhammad would approve of that. He liked that. Does that make sense? So I changed my mind. So I think the progressive imams are right, and the conservative ones are actually wrong. I changed my mind. So another one on TikTok, another father says, well, I married my oldest daughter to this, rich man, and I thought I was being a good father, like she'll be provided for. But my younger daughter, she just like, I'm going to college, And what happened now is that my oldest daughter is a slave in the house of the in-laws. They make her do all this stuff. She's uneducated. She can't get out. Her husband abuses her because he can do anything he wants. She doesn't have any say. Whereas my younger one's going to college, she's got this job, she's self-sufficient, and she doesn't let anybody abuse her. And she's only going to marry a man who respects her and supports her. You know what? I was wrong, right? I feel really bad about my oldest daughter. And the thing is, this is very typical. I don't know if it is in Indonesia, but it definitely is in Bangladesh. If you get married, the in-laws treat you like a servant. So, you can have that. I mean, in other words, you've got to do the social media thing. Don't say, oh, these people are so irrational. They just go on emotions. We have all this data, we're rational, we're Western, we have this data, this is terrible. Don't do that. Don't be a snob. Just start out saying, I am very concerned that my children have a good life. You are very concerned that your daughters have a good life. I think the way for them to have a good life is to go to college. You think the way, okay. So, but here's some stories about fathers that really had good intentions, and now they regret it. Does that make sense? That's the ancient way, is that people had good intentions and they made mistakes. Some of them never did change their minds, but other ones did. And the stories of Greek tragedy and the stories are really about that. And I would imagine the stories in the Quran, the stories in Hindu. I just don't know those traditions well enough. But that was an insight, everybody wants to do what God wants. They just disagree. And eventually, the truth will come out. So I just think Westerners that come in there with their colonial mentality and they offend people, you're never going to change anybody. You're just going to have that reaction. Because it's a superiority complex and it's colonialism. But you don't need to. You can just appeal to their own culture and their tradition. It's no problem at all. Does that make sense to you? Why did we make this into a problem? We made it into a problem by splitting religion, science. That was all fake, fake ideas. It's annoying.
Okay, thank you, Martha. So we can find a character to emulate, example, a Muslim leader, our Prophet Muhammad. We can storytelling. about him to our children to sustain the culture in our nation. Okay, maybe this is end of our discussion. Thank you for actively participating in our discussion on sustaining ethics in working culture. We have had an insightful question and answer also. And I want to thank you to our speaker, Prof. Martha. Thank you very much. And I think that wish you all continued success in your endeavors to foster ethics and excellence within the educational world. So we close with Alhamdulillah together. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Thank you very much. Maybe I'm sorry if you have any question. You can ask in the backstage. Okay. Akhirul kalam from me. Akhirul kalam. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Give applause for us. Maybe we can take picture together in the Zoom.
In the Zoom?
Yes, in the Zoom.
Okay.
Also in here. Okay. The Zoom. Oh,
Okay.
link presensi sudah teman-teman? Jangan lupa mengisi presensinya ya teman-teman. Okay, don't go anywhere in the on-site room. We will take picture together. Let's see what happens.
So we take a picture in front of the podium?
Yes.
Okay. And maybe get this out of the way. This out of the way. Okay. Very good. You stand by your picture. There you are. Yes. Very good. Oh, so everybody comes. Yeah.
Cowok-cowoknya duduk di depan meja mungkin. Dikit ya.
Okay.
Nah, situ.
Over by your. Seems to be over here.
Okay.
All right.
Geser aja. Meja sebelah aja sekalian, Zal itu Zal.
Okay.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming. Thank you for coming. Okay. Good to meet you. Nice to meet you.
So I have more questions.
It's okay. I can stay here. Thank you. Thank you. Of course.
Oke, untuk teman-teman yang masih ada di Zoom, apakah sudah mengisi link presensi?
Anybody want? Yeah, there.
Oke, silakan menyalakan kamera. Akan saya
Facebook.
screenshot
Facebook. I'm not on.
teman-teman yang ada di Zoom.
There we go.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Oke, siap semuanya? Yang bisa membuka kamera Zoom, video silahkan dibuka. Oke, siap 1, 2, 3. Oke lagi 1, 2, 3. Oke, terima kasih banyak teman-teman. Acara sudah ditutup, maka Zoom akan saya tutup. Saya end. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Syukran kasih.
Matur suwun.
Gantian. 1, 2, 3.